been exploring and like a fool. I've been ungrateful, I'm thankful. I've been ungrateful, I'm thankful.
What's up, everybody? Twitter world, everyone watching. This isn't going to be scheduled or anything like that. No script, just an open table. A bunch of football heads here talking football with a lot that went down yesterday and how it affected Washington. So real quick, while everyone hops on, we will introduce ourselves. I'll start with myself, Josh Taylor, host of the Burgundy Network podcast, Washington fan, obviously a lot of Alabama bias also, as everyone here probably knows. But Manny, we'll go ahead with you next.
All right, man. My name is Manny Chakuba. Live in Nashville, Tennessee. Big football team fan, big Lakers fan, Wizards fan, host of the Back Row Redskins show of Talking Sports with Manny. Let's get it.
Awesome. Ryan.
Hey. What's going on, guys? I'm Ryan. I'm at WhatGibbsFF on Twitter. I also has kickstarted a charitable initiative called #AnnounceThePick, which is an effort to raise money and awareness to some really amazing charities by having fantasy analysts and pro athletes announce your fantasy football draft picks for fantasy football team and leagues. So fans that want to team up with podcasts and athletes and things like that, I have the opportunity to do that. We also post videos on Twitter using the #AnnounceThePick, and we drive money to a lot of great charities like the Hog Farmers, specifically since we're Washington football team fans. And we've teamed up with a lot of great guys. Like Matthew Berry helped us out last year. We had Bram Weinstein, a couple other people. So it's a much bigger initiative this year. So hopefully we get more people involved and can really drive some money to those great charities like St. Jude and the Hog Farmers.
Absolutely. I know that's something you talked about with me, and looking forward to that and getting going this year. Jesse, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Jesse Martin. I am the host of the Bleeding Burgundy podcast, along with Keith Gray. Y'all probably know him as the Twitter troll. But yeah, man, love the football team. I still can't stand saying that.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about it too much because we could ramble on that for a long time. Evan, go ahead, bro.
What's good, y'all? My name is Evan at the Voice of Evan on Twitter, and I just be vibing.
You're just a fan.
That's it, man.
I love it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's all he needs. A little bit of passion about the sport.
Huge fan of the football team we got up here. I pretty much grew up in the shadow of FedEx Field. Like everybody that know the Sports and Learning Complex, I was at that building regularly, and that's pretty much where my love of the football team came from.
Awesome. George, go ahead, bro.
What up? My name is George Carmi. You guys know me at GCarmi21. I'm the editor of Full Press Coverage Washington. I've been writing for a couple of years there. Big DC sports fan. I'm University of Maryland Terp as well, so definitely representing the MD.
Oh, yeah, I lost the bet, so roll tide.
Oh, okay, there you go.
There it is. I said it.
So I rep all DC sports, man. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, George, known you probably the longest out of everybody. Manny, you too. It's good to meet. I've never met Jesse or Evan or Ryan officially, so this is awesome. Just get a bunch of guys together talking football. And like I said, let's go ahead and start about what happened yesterday. Out of the blue, I know, Manny, you were covering the NBA trade deadline. Everything was popping, and the NFL was like, "Hey guys, hold my beer. I got something for y'all." So I was literally getting a cut yesterday when all this started going on. Yeah, let's see. Started out literally out of nowhere. First off, shout out to my guy Javi Vega. I know George knows him, someone that covers the Fourth and Goal podcast with the 49ers. He's been telling me for like months. He's like, yo, I swear we're going to trade up into the top 5, possibly top 3. So he called it. Got to give him a shout out. So Miami trades the number 3 overall pick to San Francisco for the 12th pick, a 2021 third-round pick, and first-round picks in 2022 and also 2023. Manny, we've seen this happen before, specifically with Kyle Shanahan and getting RG3. What was your first thoughts when you saw this, and do you think it's actually worth it?
Look, I was in Houston yesterday. I just got back to Nashville, so we had some family stuff to do. So, man, I look at my phone, and I'm like, this cannot be serious. I'm like, okay, you trade up to number 3. So, technically, at number 3, you're looking at Lance, and you're looking at Fields. Mm-hmm. Then I go back and look at the compensation. I'm like, wait. 2 more first-round picks? So that means that they definitely have to believe in their quarterback. And all it tells me is that whoever that they bring in is possibly going to start the year on the bench, and Jimmy G is going to be the guy to start the season. And then for some odd reason, they can make a change. But I'm like, I don't know, man. We've seen history, and we've seen that this doesn't work. especially those teams that trade into the top 3. There's a chart
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
I have. There's
Go
a
ahead.
chart I have that popped up today. They had Jared Goff on there. I can't find it right now, but they had Jared Goff. They had Carson Wentz. They had RG3, and it was 2 more guys. I think it was Trubisky and some other guy.
Yeah,
And
Trubisky.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, and Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold's the only one that's still on the team for the
Yeah, but
Jets.
That's not looking
The
good.
wild thing about that is
That's
Sam
not gonna
Darnold's
last
also the
long.
only one that's never been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the wildest thing about
Yeah.
all of that.
Now, I will say, I mentioned this, not a lot of people know this, but there's a quarterback camp called the QB Collective, and it's run by top guys like Matt LaFleur, Mike Shanahan, Sean McVay, and then also Kyle Shanahan. So they traded to the top 3, and for me, it's obvious that they're going to pick Justin Fields. So Justin Fields was actually at this camp before college, working with Kyle Shanahan. He worked with him firsthand. He was crafting his game with them. Like, he knows exactly what he's getting out of Justin Fields. And he likes Zach Wilson stuff too, but I think Justin's the likely pick there. George, we heard some chirping yesterday from a couple guys. We talked about this in our group chat.
Yeah.
Might shock the world. Dan Orlovsky and Chris Sims
No
said
way.
the number 3 pick is going to be my guy, Michael McCorkle-Jones, Mac Jones out of Alabama.
Miggity Mac.
Yeah, old Big Mac. What is your reaction going to be if they really traded into the number 3 pick to take Mac Jones?
Dude, I couldn't even believe it. I don't even know how to act if that happens. I don't think there's any way that happens there.
No.
I think, realistically, like coming away from the trade, I think the trade reflects like Kyle Shanahan. I don't want to say arrogance, but confidence in himself.
Forgive them.
I-
James.
Cocky Kyle.
Cocky Kyle, forgive you, Jesus. I think Kyle is very confident in his scheme. I feel like he believes that he can take any quarterback and elevate them and put them where they need to go. So I think the move to number 3, I think Justin Fields will be the choice eventually, Josh. But I just feel like he's like, dude, if it's Trey Lance, if it's Zach Wilson, whoever comes to me, I can mold them and take them at that level. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, missed 19 games or something over the past 2 years. He's unreliable. He's not, I think Kyle had confidence in him, but the fact that he's unavailable makes him unappealable. You're not attracted to him anymore. You don't want him on the team anymore. If Mac Jones gets selected by the 49ers, I think it's a blunder. I mean, I know he is great with accuracy. I think, you and I talk in our chat, Josh. I think he excels at like fast reactions, and like I think he's one of the best, highest rated quarterbacks in regard to like blitz and like time to throw. So that's definitely a strength there. But I honestly see Justin Fields. Like I think like he's going to try to reenact that RG3, that RPO, the whole run, QB runs and things of that nature. He wants that mobile quarterback. So I kind of see him going that way. Mac Jones, I think the entire world's jaw would drop if Mac Jones is selected.
I think so, too.
Mac Jones ain't that type. You can't go on field with Mac Jones.
Hell no.
Now, we'll
No,
say
no.
with
Hey,
Jimmy
nah.
Garoppolo,
That man is
he's
a
owed about 27 mil next year, and the dead cap hit for him is only $2.8 million. If you're getting rid of Jimmy G, like I've been screaming this for months now, you get rid of him now.
Mhm.
And from what I've been hearing, he was healthy at the end of the season, but he was like, we're not in playoff contention. I'm not going to play for the team. Like he could have went 5 weeks left into the season. So he might have tapped out, but he has a no trade clause. So a lot depends on that. Jesse, I'm going to go to you. If you're San Francisco and you are at pick 3, are you taking Justin Fields or are you taking Trey Lance?
I'm taking Justin Fields all day. I mean,
You see who didn't get mentioned?
oh, yeah, I think it's
not
obvious. I for those who know me, know I'm not a Mac Jones fan, but this trade, I think Mac Jones is a 3rd round prospect. I do. Y'all can yell at me if you want to. I know Josh probably wants to.
I'm not going to.
But after this trade, I know he's going to go in the 1st round somewhere. Someone's going to pick him in the 1st round because they're going to be running out of quarterbacks. It's going to be the top 4 is probably going to be quarterbacks, and I think it's crazy. I think the trade actually says a lot for Miami because they're swallowing up these 1st round picks, man. I think they're the team that's going to win out of all this. But if I'm San Francisco, I'm taking Justin Fields. He's the Shanahan type quarterback. But we've seen this, man. It's deja vu with Kyle, with the Shanahans. I don't know if it's going to work out. I think it's a steep price. I didn't think we'd ever see a trade like an RG3 trade again for a quarterback.
Here we are.
Here we are, man. Here we are.
Not
Let me
long
ask you, though,
after.
if RG3 doesn't get hurt that first year, right? Does that trade look great for the Redskins or Washington
So
football
hard.
team
It's
now,
hard.
right?
It's heading the right
You never
way.
know.
If he don't get hurt, we win the East at least either 13 or 14, maybe both.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the
It's so
whole
hard to tell.
outlook and that whole outlook of the organization looks entirely different.
That's true.
Yeah. A lot got shooken up over the RG3 injury. That set us
Like,
back. And that's the
a-
thing that we've been saying. Is it worth the risk? If something happens to Fields, like if he just isn't good, like for some reason, like how far does that set back the 49ers who are right there in Super Bowl contention? They were just there. So it's such a big risk. But Ryan, my question for you is a little interesting. This has to do with the Jets. We saw Zach Wilson have his pro day yesterday.
Oh, you're so good.
How crazy would the Jets be to not take Wilson and get a guy like Kyle Pitts and just say, hey, we're rolling with Darnold. We don't need a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I think they're locked into to Zach Wilson at this point. And I think when you're listening to some of the rumors over the last couple of days, right, they were saying the Eagles were trying to move up to 3 if Zach Wilson was going to potentially be there. And it looks like all indications from the Eagles side was he's not going to be there at 3. So that's telling me they know that Wilson's going to. I can't picture them not going quarterback at this point. I know Darnold's got 1 more year left on his rookie year deal, and then they could pick up the option on that, and he's 20-something million at that point. But I think the Jets are going to, with the new staff coming in, pick their quarterback of choice. I think it's all kind of smoke screen with Darnold trying to pump up some sort of value for him in trade. But I think the Jets are going to go Zach Wilson. It's intriguing to think, like, if you believe in Darnold, right, you can make a move, beef up that offensive line, maybe take someone like a Penny Sewell or Rashawn Slater or someone. But I think they're going to end up going Zach Wilson at the end of the day.
Yeah, to me, it's just like, how bad do you look if you pass up on Zach Wilson for Sam Darnold just to keep him?
Yeah.
Just to say, hey, he might be good. We're just going to get him a couple weapons and just hope he
That
can
would
get
be
it.
the most Jets thing that could possibly happen.
They've done worse.
Right.
Like, honestly, they've done worse. Like, let's get rid of everybody.
Like
I got a question for everybody.
If I'm the Jaguars, I'm thinking twice about that Trevor Lawrence pick with the first pick. I gotta take a harder look into Zach Wilson, to be honest with you.
That's
That's
a
just
tough
me,
one.
though.
To me, it's Trevor
makes
Lawrence.
sense because like I was about to go somewhere entirely different. I was like, wait a minute, but who? Look at the quarterback group. Never mind.
Go ahead, man. You had a question.
I thought you was going somewhere entirely different with that, but yeah. As far as
So
like
my question for you guys is, if the Jets do not go quarterback, right, that'll be crazy. What other prospects do you guys see that's worth that number 2 pick? Maybe trading from 2 to 4? I'll say Penei Sewell. What do you
Penei
guys?
Sewell or Kyle Pitts.
like
Honestly.
Penei Sewell too, like he's definitely a top 5 pick. Kyle Pitts is kind of borderline at 2. I can't stress the at 2 part enough. It's like he's a top 10 pick, probably top 5 for sure. But the question is top 2 though.
You can't take a tight end at 2, in my opinion. I love Kyle
you can trade
Pitts.
that price.
I think
Never
honestly, you take maybe I think Penei Sewell for sure. I think he's going to be the pick at left tackle. Maybe go edge rusher, but I don't see anyone that vital and special in this year's class.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a wide receiver, Jamar Chase or something like that. But I think Penei Sewell is the pick. I actually had a question for y'all, or Josh. I don't know if I'm stepping on your toes, but
No, go ahead, bro.
I think if you're top 3, right, it's almost like a requirement to either draft a quarterback or to trade out and just get a king's ransom for everything, right?
Yep.
So here's my tricky kind
In
of
that
crazy
case, last
question.
year kind of bugged the track because 2 of the
It's
top
gonna-
3 was defense.
I'm gonna steer the pot right now, right? I freaking love Chase Young. He changed our entire defense. Were we wise to stay at number 2, or should we just taken a king's ransom and taken all these draft picks for him? What do you guys think about that?
I think if
I
you
hate
look around
questions
the
like this.
NFL, yeah, and I think when you look around the NFL, there's a couple positions that are very, very hard to trade for and very rarely come up in free agency: quarterback, tackle, and D end. And I think someone like Chase Young, who can just be a total game changer, those D ends don't come around often. You don't see them on free agency often. I have no issues not getting a king's ransom and taking Chase Young there. And I actually think with the Jets, everyone talks about Sewell a lot. I actually really, really like Rashawn Slater. And, you talk about Chase Young. When I saw him play against Chase Young in 2019, he held his own. He looked better against Chase Young than pretty much any of the NFL tackles that went up against him this year. So I look at that as a potential pick, and I think people are sleeping on Slater just a little bit. But
Cool.
I might get murdered, but if you tell me we trade back and get Justin Herbert and like another first-round pick and a second-round pick, come on now.
If Justin Herbert turned out, I'm not even going to hold you. Like, I'm not even going to say nothing on that. But it's like, as far as like as far as Chase Young goes, like knowing what we know now, Washington made the correct choice in not trading out number 2 because number 1, you have a player like Chase Young who's as explosive and athletic as Chase Young. That's his impact on the field, but he also had an impact off the field because you bring a player like him and a personality like his into a Washington defense that ranked bottom of the league in 2019, and now all of a sudden they rank number 2, and like the whole D line comes back and most of the defensive starters come back. So, like this man might have just like not single handedly, but he had a great part in starting to turn the franchise around.
He's the heart and soul of it all. Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Evan is making so much sense because I'm doing a dynasty fantasy draft right now, right? And Washington's defense went so early. That's the Chase Young effect. Like you still got some pretty good wide receivers on the board, some pretty good tight ends, and the Washington goes as the first defense in the dynasty startup. You
got to ask yourself, if we don't take Chase Young at 2, does anybody respect our defense?
It's not nearly as good, I'll say. Like he definitely has a big play in it. Go ahead, Jesse. I know you're going to say something.
I'll jump in too, Ash, when he's done.
I didn't forget what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought. No, it's all good. Yeah. It was something about, it had to do with Herbert or something like that. If we knew, what he was going to be, I mean, you probably have to take that quarterback. Just because. But I don't even like talking about it because Chase Young is just such a vital part of this franchise now that we're not that defense we were last year without him. It's just not.
And I agree to both of you guys. Hindsight's 2020, right? Justin Herbert, if we knew he was going to be, the highest rookie touchdown passes of all time, NFL history, we might be interested in him at that point. I think Evan hit the nail on the head. I think you pick him, like with your number 2 pick, you're still looking for a franchise changer, right? Not only is Chase Young a supreme athlete, he, revolutionizes the position. He does elevate everybody around him. Like I was always high on Montez Sweat. I don't know how you guys felt about him. He was projected to be a top 10 pick, but then he had the heart murmur, he had the heart condition, and people were very concerned about him. In fact, I'm sure you guys heard the story. He was who we were supposed to take him at 15. That's who Kyle Smith advocated for before Dan Snyder came in and was like, hey, Haskins, pick me. Is basically that he's going on that route, right? So basically, the fact that we got Young allowed it to be single blocking on both sides with both defensive tackles, and our defensive line just took off. And the intangibles off the field. Chase Young's a glue player, someone that brings people around and kind of elevates them. He has a kind of that Ray Lewis enthusiasm that kind of brings people up. And you saw with Heineke and kind of going that energy. It's infectious. Exactly, very right. So, we can't. If we have 10 years of Chase Young, we can't never look back on that number 2 pick, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
it's all about the future that you don't know about. So
And what does our edge situation look like this year going into this offseason if we don't have Chase Young, right? You got Sweat, you got Kerrigan leaving.
Stays.
Yeah. And then there's nothing, right? It's
like we might have overpaid for Kerrigan if we didn't draft Chase Young. That's another part of this.
True.
Like
all right, so now let's
back. We probably would have overpaid too.
Let's look ahead to who I like to call the Oklahoma City Thunder of the NFL, the Miami Dolphins. Collecting all these picks. I knew Manny would like that one.
I love it.
So they don't make just one trade. They make 2. They trade out and then trade back up. And a lot of Miami insiders were like, good, we're right back in that sweet spot to get our guy at number 6 and then still have pick 18. And honestly, to me, I think these 2 picks and what happens with Philly, which we'll talk about in a minute, really affect what Washington do. So my question for you guys is pick 6 and pick 18 for Miami. Manny, who do you think Miami selects at pick 6?
At pick 6, they got to get a wide receiver. It's between your boy and Jamar Chase, and it's all going to come down to
2 boys now.
I know why. Hey, they might get both of them though. They might get both.
They could.
It's possible.
Somebody's going to fall out the top 10. They could.
Yeah, when you look at the weapons that Tua has, he struggled last year, so they made it a point. Hey, we got to get him some weapons. They signed Will Fuller. Now I think they get Jamar Chase, and at 18, you gotta go Najee Harris. You just have to. You just gotta surround this guy.
I wasn't expecting that one.
Hey, the defense is already stacked. They were a wide receiver
or 2
and a running back away from being a very, very good offense. So those are
that defense looked much better last year for Miami.
Yeah,
a lot better. George, let me go to you. This is where I think this could really shake things up for Washington's big board, and that's at 18. In my opinion, Manny said Najee Harris, but honestly, to me, I think if they don't take wide receiver at 6, say they go all out and get Pitts at 6, which would be nuts. 2 would be thumb bombs all day.
Crazy, and I could actually see it happening.
And then at pick 18, they could take a guy like Rashad Bateman, or if someone like Devontae Smith or Waddle falls that far. But then you have offensive line to protect Tua. And you're looking at a guy like Christian Darrisaw, who Washington was obviously paying close attention to at Pro Day.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a huge fan. So what pick do you think Miami could do that could drastically affect what Washington does? Not just a prediction, but which pick would really hurt Washington?
I think in the offensive tackle. So I think Miami has the exact same mentality that we do. They're looking offensive tackle. They're looking wide receiver. I think so. This is my prediction. I'm gonna put this down in ink so you guys can call me out in a month from now, right? I think Jamar Chase is going to the Bengals. I think he's going to go at number 5 for the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow is going to get his guy back from LSU. He's going to basically have his number 1 wide receiver right there ready to go. I think with the way things are shaking up, I think Penei Sewell will fall to the Dolphins at number 6. He might be there, okay, or Kyle Pitts, but I think Penei Sewell will probably be there at number 6. So we have Tua's blind side protected. He's basically ready to go. Meeting at 18, we're looking at Waddle or Smith, and that's going to basically hurt us. Like I love Waddle. Like everyone loves Jamar Chase. That's their he's the glamour boy. He's number 1 overall. I like Waddle, man. He's a poor man's Tyreek Hill. He's not quite there yet, but he's a great punt returner. He's explosive. He can break it out. I like him a lot. So I think they could put him anywhere. They could put him in a slot if they need to. They do have Will Fuller, Devontae Parker. He's a pretty good wide receiver, but he can be replaced on the outside. So I think. He's replaceable. He's definitely replaceable. So I think that's going to hurt us. I think wide receiver and tackle. But I think my pick is that Penei Sewell goes to the Dolphins at 6.
So Draft Network actually has. So Draft Network has Jay Waddle at number 3 right now. So you're not the only one high on him. Like he's their number 3 overall prospect, which is crazy. And real quick, you also said if the Bengals don't go offensive line. Joe Burrow should be like, what the heck are y'all doing? He was the most hit quarterback last year.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Ryan. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say with Waddle, like people forget too, before he got hurt with that ankle injury, right? He had 4 straight games of 120 yards plus, right? Like that's, I mean, I love Waddle. I have him so ridiculously high this year as well. I think he's going to be a stud as well. But I think since he's going to end up going O-line, I could see them taking a Chase, especially I've heard that Burrow is kind of like,
loves him.
Lobbying for him a little bit, which makes sense. But, I still think you got to protect your investment in Burrow. Gotcha. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think Cincy and Miami is the 2 that could shake the draft up. Evan, if you're Miami and you're sitting at 6 and you have Chase, you have Penei Sewell who slips back because Rashawn Slater somehow passes him, and then you have Kyle Pitts. Which of those 3 guys are you taking?
Yeah, because I've noticed for Miami trading out of the top 10 and back into the top 10, that just telegraphed that A, they're not drafting a quarterback. B, pick number 6 is going to be a wide receiver. So I'm thinking of the 3, you said Waddle and Kyle Pitts, right?
You can go outside the box and pick whoever you want, Evan. This is your draft pick, bro.
All right, so I'm gonna say something that made mad sense during the college football season. Probably don't make as much sense now, but hey, this is the same route the Tua pick went. Devontae Smith.
Well, Miami spent plenty of time with Devontae Smith at the Senior Bowl. That's pretty much the only reason he went there. He didn't work out or do nothing.
Make a little bit too much.
I mean, I would love it. I'd like to see them 2 together.
At number 18, this is where the Dolphins mess up Washington and everybody else that made the playoffs. So I say if Waddle's still around here, if Waddle falls to 18, because somebody is going to fall. It always happens in a draft. Somebody always falls.
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, if Waddle falls, that's where he goes at 18. If not, it's Bateman. Either way,
would screw us up
on pass catchers.
Yeah.
Jesse? Do you guys all have Bateman as number 4 kind of across the board?
Yep.
Yeah. It's close between him and Rondell Moore.
Yeah, exactly. Me too, John.
Yeah. So
Moore's right there too.
Rondell Moore is that little firecracker.
I love that guy.
I have I'm a little bit of a screwball there. So I have Terrace Marshall as my number 4, which I don't think too many people have. I just like the big bodied receiver. And, even when you saw him on the field with Jamar Chase and, Justin Jefferson when they were there all together, right? Like he always still kind of popped out on film every once in a while. And I think he's getting a little bit overlooked because of, some of these big names and everything. But I really like Terrace Marshall, and I think people in the NFL are going to like him a little bit more than people are talking about right now. So I see him going in the first round.
The Alabama in me just can't put him at 4, so I'm sorry. I have to say Chase, because if not, I just look stupid.
Morning when these teams see who fell.
Yeah, somebody's going to slip. Like you said, it always happens.
It's so deep that a top 15 or so talent could and will fall into the second round.
Yeah, well, they will. It always happens.
Yeah. So, Jesse, let me ask you. People were saying this whole time, even after Fitzpatrick, Washington should have traded up, should have got a guy, whether it's Lance, so on. We see what the price is now. Do you think Washington was smart staying where they are? Because we were at 19, not 12. It would be more than what San Francisco offered to trade up. Do you think Washington was smart not trading up?
I do. And we haven't been hearing any rumblings coming out at Ashburn Park either. They're not going to give away all these assets for a guy that they're not gung-ho about. I'm sure we would have heard something if they were really high on a Fields or a Lance, because those are their only two quarterbacks that are, were gettable outside the top 2 picks. We would have probably heard something. So I think not giving away our future was probably the best and smartest move, because Lance is I love his talent, but his experience and his competition that he played against, that worries me. If you're going to have to give up three first rounders or two firsts and 2 seconds and some other picks too, that's just too much for a guy that's kind of an unknown.
Yeah, like Ron said, that's just mortgaging your future. And like we said, we already have PTSD from RG3. So.
Exactly. I don't. We'll get a quarterback eventually.
Worked out in the short term, but the long term,
it's just not worth it.
No.
So, Ryan, I'm going to go to you. We're talking about pick 19 for Washington. Are you the kind of guy that's saying, hey, let's get the best player available? Or are you the kind of guy that says, hey, let's look at our holes on the team and just get whoever's there?
I'm always BPA, and one of the things I really appreciate about the staff is I feel like their approach to free agency is always to fill the holes to the point where we're not desperate, right? We may not have a stud at every position, or you'll at least have some competition, but they never have just glaring holes going to the draft where you feel like you have to desperately reach, and that's a big change, I think, within DC. So, I would definitely go best player available. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they look wide receiver with some of the moves they made with Humphreys and with Curtis Samuel now. So you got 3 decent receivers there, and we have some pretty good depth at this point. I really want to see us go O-line if somebody falls. I just, you got Brandon Sheriff with his contract situation and being on a franchise tag. We don't know what's going to happen there. I'm not sure that I very much trust Lucas at left tackle for the long term. He did great last year. The line looked good. But when you look at some of the competition we played throughout the back of that year when the line was kind of gelling, other than Tampa Bay in the playoffs, there wasn't really that great edge rushers that we were going up against. Pittsburgh, when we played them, even Bud Dupree was out. So it kind of makes me a little bit nervous on the line side. I'd like to see us sure something up there. I just don't know if it's going to be there. I don't want to reach either. I view Darrisaw, I'm curious with you guys, do you view him as someone who's going to stay at left tackle or move inside? Because you guys were talking about him before from Virginia
I think
Tech.
he stays at left tackle. I think he should start on there. I don't think he's like a Sadiq Charles where he plays better at left guard. I think he's like a true left tackle.
Right.
Yep, I think that makes sense. So, I mean, if he's available there, I could see that being the pick, and that's really like I truly believe in building along the line. So I hope we see Washington go that direction, unless someone else just like a Micah Parsons or something crazy falls. But I really want to see us go O-line.
I love me some character issues if they fall to 19, unless you're Darius Price.
How we got Chase.
Good job, Josh.
Sorry. I feel that little LSU shit.
I think BPA how we got Chase Young too. So let's go for it. 2 years in a row. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead, Manny.
All right, so Ryan, man, you made a great point. Josh, we were on a couple shows together. Remember, I was telling you that if we can get a KJ Wright or even a Malik Hooker or even a Trey Boston, even though we both love Richie Grant, even though we want to get a free safety in the second round, if possible, if we go ahead and address linebacker and free safety, even if those guys are not long-term options, it gives us we have all the options when it comes to the draft. You can still draft a free safety, and we can do to whoever that we bring in, like how we did Sean Davis last year. Like, you want to go into the draft. Yeah, exactly. We want to go into the draft not desperate and not reaching. We want to get the best player available. But I still feel like there's some key pieces that we can grab on 1-year deals, short deals in free agency. I mean, we need another linebacker. We need another free safety. And let's just go into the draft to where, okay, if Richie Grant somehow goes in the first round, you can't be hoping and wishing, oh, man, that was our plan A, plan B. Maybe there's a run on free safety. Maybe there's a run on linebacker. And now we're like, oh, crap. Now we got to go ahead and draft this guy that was like 5th or 6th on our board because, we wanted a linebacker and we didn't prepare and we, didn't have options. So I would love for us to fill that linebacker spot and that free safety spot. So once we get into the draft, we hold all the options, all the marbles, and we can even trade back and acquire more picks.
Yep. And I think if you look at, we still have cap space, right? So I think we're kind of playing like we did last year, right? We're going to start waiting for guys to, get more of those, deals, like, value deals that are going to come through, like the Kevin Pierre-Lewis's and some of the guys that we signed last year, right? That were more value contracts. I think exactly. And I think that's what's going to happen with free safety and with linebacker. I think you're going to see us address that with 1-year deals, plug that gap. Don't go into the draft desperate, and then you'll see us go BPA. That just seems to be how this staff operates. So I'm all on board with that.
Yeah, people saying Trey Boston might be an after draft kind of signing guy. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, so I got 2 adages for you. So Gil Brandt, famous NFL evaluator, he said free agency is the tax for missing on the draft. That's basically something that resonated with me. If you miss on the draft, you end up having to pay people to be on your team, which I thought was very important, something to have in your mind. Another thing you do with free agency is you also have to add, you use free agency to basically add to fill all the needs on your team to walk into the draft to have BPA available, as many suggested. So I definitely agree with you there. I think Ron Rivera has something in his mind, and I think the Washington should come in with like a tiered approach. This is my top 5 people in my tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So they kind of have it broken down. So they do BPA, but also meshed with their need. So I think Ron Rivera walking into the draft is like, we need an offensive tackle, we need a linebacker. I think those are the 2 things on his mind. I think he also kind of covered up the wide receiver, the slot position. He wants one, but I think he was like, I'll put Adam Humphries here. If we miss at 19, if we get our tackle there, we can always get in the second round because I do think the wide receiving class is pretty deep. Right. So at 19, let's say Micah Parsons falls to 19, that'd be fantastic. But realistically, He's either going to go like top 5, top 10 because he's that awesome, or he's going to fall like a minute frozen, just like in the that's awesome. He froze pumped up, or he's going to fall out, like he's going to fall like a rock, like Gideon Foster. That's what I think what's going to happen with Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
falls right at 19. I'd be happy with that.
But he's a top 5 guy. Easy.
Yeah. I don't think Ron's going to take him though. I don't think Ron's going to.
I kind of agree.
Even at 19, I think Ron wants to build a high character team. So I think realistic options: Christian Darrisaw. Great player. He's a grader, man. His PFF grade was a 95.6, and he was well rounded. He scored above a 90 in pass blocking, a 91 in run blocking. He's more. That's where, Ryan, you're projecting right tackle. I can see that too. But I think that, for our purposes, we'd put him at left tackle because we need it there. And I think he's athletic enough. He just is not disciplined enough. He's very top heavy, very stiff. So I think once we pitch it out, we can have a left tackle. So I think Darrisaw is probably the pick, or I think Joke, man, from Notre Dame. I know people don't like it. One of our friends, Nate Coleman, he hates Joke.
Hates him. I'm with him. I'm a Joke hater.
I'm not a hater anymore, man. I was a Zaven Collins fan. I'm a big Zaven Collins stan. I love Zaven Collins.
That's me right here.
When I was looking at it, dude, I was like, Joke is a beast, man. People hate on people are nitpicking and kind of over evaluating him. He is small. I think Darius Leonard from the Colts played about the same size as him at 215, 220. He played more of a zone, which we play. We played more of a zone defense in Washington, so I think he'd fit in pretty well. And I think he's a good chess piece to have. So if we got him, I wouldn't be mad. But Josh, it sounds like you would be. It sounds like Nate would be too. So just throwing that out there.
So I'll have to say, George, I agree with you. I think with free agency this year, we set ourselves up perfectly to where other teams are like, what the heck is Washington about to do? Right. They addressed the wide receivers. They've improved the team overall. It's not like we're screaming need, except, like you said, linebacker. Can we improve wide receiver? Yes. I think Cam Sims, as much as, I'm going to talk about – we have a podcast tomorrow about wide receivers. But But I feel like bringing him back was part of their plan. Like that was important to them as like a backup because he had his
They
best
like him.
season last
They like
year.
him.
Yeah.
They do.
So I feel like with the free agency, they filled a lot of holes and really set themselves up to like, hey, we can take best player available. Like, did we need Chase Young or did we need a quarterback last year? We needed a quarterback last year, but Chase Young was the best guy, and the whole team got better because of that.
Well said.
Go into the draft with the same approach. So Jesse, I'm gonna turn the tables a little bit. We're not gonna talk about our team. We're gonna talk about some rivals in the NFC East. Philadelphia.
Okay.
So Ian Rappaport said they were trying to trade up to pick 3 to get a quarterback. Stabbing my guy Jalen Hurts in the back. How dare they? As if I didn't hate them enough. They're going to try to do that. They missed out on their quarterback. Immediately, 10, 15 minutes later after that trade happened, they said, all right, we're out. We're headed back. So they trade with Miami, go to pick 12. Was that smart of them to do, or do you think they should have stayed right there at 6?
I mean, that's a tough call. I mean, one thing I will say that they got some draft picks coming in, next season.
They don't draft well at all, so
I guess it's good for us this year. I guess if how do you feel if you're Jalen Hurts right now? Though is one thing that went through my mind. I mean, especially when the reports came out that they wanted to trade up. Obviously, they wanted to trade up for a quarterback, but they had just signed Joe Flacco. The reports came out that they didn't want to have bring someone in that would threaten Hurts like Hurts threatened Carson. I think that team right now is a dumpster fire, and I don't even think it knows what it wants to do. To be honest,
I agree. You draft Rager last year, who seems like he was a complete miss, passed up on guys like Justin Jefferson. They look terrible right now. But like you said, they do get an extra first-round pick next year. We'll see if that turns out. Like I said, they kind of wasted the pick with Jalen Rager.
And they get one from Carson Wentz, too.
Man.
But they're still paying him like $35 million next year to play for the Colts. So they're in the hole on that. So, Ryan, my question for you is, with Philadelphia at 6, your possibility, you could get Kyle Pitts. You could get that Jamar Chase. You could lock in that guy that you missed on last year. And now you're at 12. Who at 12 you're like, all right, that was not a bad trade. It was worth it. Is there someone possibly at 12 that could say, hey, maybe that wasn't a bad idea?
So I think if you look at 12 and you look at the picks in front of them, right, I think they're in position still to potentially get a Waddle or a Devonta Smith or someone like that. So I think by picking up another first rounder, I actually like the trade for them. It's nice for Washington fans that, we probably don't have to watch Pitts in Philadelphia, which I'm very happy about, but I still think they're going to get a weapon, unfortunately, that's going to be a good get there at 12. Just looking at, I think you're going to see 4, probably 5 quarterbacks go before they even pick, right? I think you're going to see 2 linemen go. So at that point, I see some weapons starting to slip. And you saw that last year, right? Like no one thought CeeDee Lamb was going to go 17th, and here he is falling to the Dallas Cowboys. So I think those weapons kind of sometimes tend to fall, and I could see one of those guys from Bama being there for Philadelphia, unfortunately, and hopefully for your sake, it doesn't happen. And for all of our sake.
We talk about Tua getting his boys back. Jalen Hurts might get a Bama receiver back. That would definitely help him out. Like I said, just with how they've drafted recently, it's been so often, to me, them getting a first next year, I wasn't like, oh, dang, they're rebuilding. I feel like they're just complete dumpster fire right now, like what Jesse said.
Yeah.
Manny, are you threatened at all by Philadelphia next season?
No. Matter of fact, man, I got something to share with all of us, man. So
He's got the juice.
So check this out. So they benched Hurts against Washington to land the number 6th pick. Then you trade Carson Wentz to commit to Jalen, right? While you're paying Carson Wentz salary, right? Then you attempt to trade up in the draft to get a quarterback after you committed to Jalen, right? Then you didn't get to trade up. You couldn't trade up. San Francisco did. So you says, oh, heck, I'm going to trade down just because I don't know what to do. Just because they don't know what to do. So they trade down. Instead of drafting Pitts at 6, Chase at 6, the linebacker at 6, they trade down. So, and they're probably going to mess up the pick again. They're going to get the wrong receiver. They're going to do something dumb.
That's what I was going to say. They go get somebody they don't need.
Yeah, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Ray.
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
it's gonna happen again. And I'm sorry, they end up picking the wrong Alabama receiver, and that guy ends up struggling with the Eagles, and then leaves in
Don't
the
you
next 2
say
years.
it. Don't you
So,
say
that's all I
Smith
got
is
for
too
you, man.
small.
Yeah, I'm not
Don't
worried
you
about
say
the
it.
The real
I am
winners
not
of the
worried about the
Eagles
Eagles, man.
are the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
So Evan, that's the question I want to ask you. Out of all the trades that went down, all the mix-up, who's the biggest winner in this? Is it San Francisco, Miami, Philadelphia, or someone else?
I think it's the Dolphins because like everybody gave something up, but look at what the Dolphins got back. They got a 6th. They got another first round pick, didn't they?
2 first
Pick
rounders,
18.
2
Yeah,
years.
they got 2 first. They got 6. They got 18, and all they had to do was give up the 3 where it's like they were gonna draft somebody where they pretty much oh my goodness, well
They were going to overdraft somebody.
yeah. That's the only option they had in a situation where you're Miami, where it's like you don't need a quarterback as desperately as somebody else might. So your only other choice would be to overdraft somebody. So they wouldn't need to do that. So yeah, Dolphins win.
Look, they took
me jump in there, too.
the Laramie Tunsil deal and made 4 first-round picks out of that deal.
Nuts.
They are
Finesse the league.
crazy. Crazy.
I saw him
think-
tweet a picture of a statue of
right
himself
now.
outside the stadium.
If Tua can get it together, they're going to be a team to beat for they're going to be a good team for a long time.
He will.
Yeah.
He will.
Let
Go
me-
ahead,
let
Jordan.
me- Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to address that, Jesse. Everyone's sleeping on the fact the Dolphins were 10-6 last year. So imagine that,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
They were 10-6. They barely missed the playoffs by what? I think they lost like whatever.
I think it was like to Buffalo. Like that game really.
Yeah, that was
Exactly. It was
last
a tiebreaker
game.
week 17. They would have gotten in the
They could've
playoffs.
made
So
the
they
playoffs,
almost had it there. So the Dolphins, I agree. The Dolphins basically they're showing a savvy and an intelligence that's kind of schooling the rest of the NFL. They definitely are showing people how to trade, move up and down. Going back to the Eagles, like, you guys might get mad at me, but I'm a very like level kind of pragmatic fan. Like I'm definitely a Washington fan, but like I've seen it all and seen things burn. So like I'm level with this. I think the Eagles set themselves up for success. I know you guys might get mad at me. I'm kind of with Ryan. I kind of like that trade. Like basically, I think the Dolphins got the best of it, but I think the Eagles are in a good situation in terms of flexibility because what's going to happen is they have their own pick next year. They got the Dolphins pick, which honestly it won't be a great pick because I anticipate the Dolphins being another 10-win team, so probably like in the 20s or something like that. But everyone's also forgetting that with the Carson Wentz pick, they got a 3rd rounder and a conditional 2nd that could activate into a 1st rounder as well. So if Carson Wentz plays 75% of his snaps, that's another 1st rounder. So the Eagles will have 3 1st rounders next year, realistically, right?
Yep.
So the Eagles could either add 3 more starters to their team, or if they don't like
Trade
the
up.
whole Jalen Hurts experiment,
Yeah.
trade all 3 of them up, go all up to number 1 even, and get the best quarterback in the draft. And I know 2022 is like projected to be a weak draft class, but they do that every year. Our person isn't that great, and all of a sudden, this guy's the best person I've ever seen in my life.
Spencer Rattler will be better than Trevor Lawrence next.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Legend, like it's crazy. So I kind of see that happening. So it might not look great. However, like Eagles fans, I have a couple of Eagle fans that I interact with on Twitter. They hated the trade. They're not happy with it, but like maybe like if I had 3 first-round picks next year, I'd be happy. I think we can be a lot of flexibility for the future. I like that.
It's setting them up, but they have to know what they're doing. They have to know who they're drafted, and I don't think anybody gives them confidence enough to pick really good players with those 3 first-round draft picks.
I think with the Eagles,
fire him.
yeah, and I think with the Eagles too, like there's like infighting within the organization, right? Like some wanted Hurts, some wanted Wentz. They weren't sure what they were going to do there, right? So I think
Like Haskins.
that. Yeah, exactly. They don't have that alignment, right, with the staff, and that's one of the things that I'm like really happy about what Ron Rivera has built with us is, right, I feel like everybody's aligned in that building, like everyone's working together, everyone's on the same page. The Eagles don't have that right now. Maybe next year if they have a change of guard there, then maybe that ends up changing. But I agree with you, George. I think not only did they have 3 first-round picks, it's all in the same year, right? You can move up in 3 first-round picks in the same year. You can move anywhere on that board. So, if they like someone, they'll have the ammo to go get it.
I agree. So I have a final question for everybody, and that is, who is the biggest loser? Because I know I think George knows my answer, and to me, that's the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
Because they want a quarterback. They've been mentioned with Sam Darnold, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. Like they're desperate for a quarterback so bad. and then you have someone at 12 trade up and ahead of you, and you're just like,
The Panthers have the name associated with everybody.
Yeah.
Shoot, I think they was even interested in me for a minute.
Wildcat, awesome, perfect. Let's do it.
so to me, and
That's gonna work
George
for one
mentioned something
play,
because
I'm gonna tear my ACL.
if you're Carolina, your division rival is ahead of you. They know you want a quarterback, but I think Atlanta wants a quarterback too. And we've seen a couple mock drafts saying they'll get Lance, they'll get Fields, whoever, because Matt Ryan's on his last leg. I feel like Carolina definitely loses out on this. And I tweeted out this today, or I think it was yesterday. If Lance, Fields, Zach Wilson, and Lawrence all go ahead of him like we're projecting, do not be surprised if they say, all right, we're in on Mac Jones, because Matt Rule spent all week long with Mac Jones at the Senior Bowl, raved about him, loved his game. I mean, people are going to be shocked, but I think there's no way he gets past Carolina. So I will start with you, Manny. Who's the biggest loser in this draft?
Yeah, I agree. It's Carolina, and Carolina should trade up. They should call Atlanta. I know trades like that usually don't happen, but hey, maybe offer 2 first-round picks, maybe a couple seconds to get it done, because they need a quarterback more than ATL because of the cap situations with Matt Ryan. So, yeah, Carolina is the biggest loser, but I also think they should trade up. If they don't trade up, don't be surprised if they trade back, because as much as they might want a Mac Jones, they might say, you know what, let's go ahead and hit some other needs. Let's go ahead and fill some other holes. If we can fill 2 holes in the first round this year, let's, trade back and pick up some more pieces. So, yeah, Carolina is definitely the biggest loser with all these moves so far.
Yeah.
Feel bad for him. Can you imagine Micah Parsons in Carolina plus another first round pick? That'd be filthy. I think he'd be perfect for the system. Ryan, what about you? Who's the biggest loser?
Yeah, I'd go with Carolina, and then I think Denver's in the same spot, right? They're both right back to back. Both need a quarterback. I'm not a lock guy, so I think Denver's in same situation from a quarterback perspective. And I think if you're in Carolina, you're almost kind of in a worse position because you got Denver right behind you. They're not gonna let Carolina pick at 8 if they like a quarterback, right? They're gonna hop up to 7. They're gonna hop up to 6. So, I think Carolina probably is the biggest loser, but I think Denver right there with them.
Yeah, and the whole thing, if Carolina does end up with Mac, like you said, Josh, I can't help but think, is Mac Jones even the right quarterback for their system? Because I mean, when you look back at it, the Panthers quarterback for each of the last 10 seasons has been a mobile guy who can extend plays and create plays with his legs. Like you had Cam Newton, and then right after that you had Teddy Bridgewater, and right behind him PJ Walker, who could also do the same. Yep. You look at Mac Jones, and he is not that type of quarterback at all. That would just be a great big culture shock, and I don't think Carolina will be equipped to handle that.
Breaking news: Oral Roberts does not upset Arkansas.
Oh man,
72-70.
Oh man,
I know. It's short-lived. Jesse, is there a bigger loser than Carolina, or do you think they're the ones that lost it all?
I don't think so. I mean, depending upon if Atlanta had their sights set on Justin Fields, I would think they lost a little bit. The Broncos possibly, but yeah, Carolina is just probably cussing everybody out right now because I'm sure they had their sights set on a quarterback. I mean, this is Carolina, definitely.
And Evan, what you said with Mac Jones, he does get Christian McCaffrey back, unless they just pull on some all-out trade and Deshaun Watson does end up going there. But I feel like you kind of make the offense work if you do. If you take a guy at 8, you have to make it work.
Yeah, you got to build some, if you do get Mac Jones at 8 in your Carolina, you got to get somebody I think you got to trade back in the first round and get somebody that he could work with. I mean, he could work with McCaffrey, but at what point do Moore and McCaffrey just become the whole offense?
Yeah,
true. Go ahead, Jesse.
But I just think if you're going to get a quarterback like Mac Jones, you're going to that early in the draft, you're going to tailor your offense around them. I think Mac Jones needs to have a stellar offensive line. Mm-hmm. They got good weapons in Carolina, but I mean, if Rule likes them, get them. If Rule thinks that he could be a franchise quarterback, tailor your offense around what Mac Jones' strengths are. I mean, that should go with any quarterback that you have. I don't think coaches and coordinators do that enough, to be honest with you.
And I think they'd give him time too. They're not gonna be like, "Hey, Mac, you got 1 year.
Yeah.
We don't have time. We lost Samuel. We don't have time to give you these weapons. Like, just figure it out." Like Matt Rule, he knows, former college head coach. Like, he knows what to do. He knows, how to progress players, stuff like that. So, George, coming to you, 2-part question: who's the biggest loser? And if Carolina doesn't get Mac Jones, is there a quarterback later on that you think they would possibly try to get?
Wow. Okay. Tricky question. So let me say this. I agree with you guys. I think Carolina is the biggest loser. I think it's pretty tough for them. I think they're boxed out. I think the Falcons. Let me rephrase the question. The biggest winner of all of this is the Atlanta Falcons. I'll put it that way, right? Sitting at number 4, they now sit at like a king's ransom. They can do whatever they want. People are going to come to them and come get that draft pick, right? So they're going to sit there. They're ready to go. I can see Denver possibly moving up to number 4. I actually wrote that in my article. I wrote an article for Full Press Coverage today. It was called "How the Trades Affected Washington," but I talked about Denver. Denver's habitually had a big arm quarterback. They have Jerry Jeudy. They have Cortland Sutton. They basically have a lot of wide receivers, a lot of weapons. It might work out.
Even Noah Fant.
Noah Fant, which is Noah Fant's a beast. So they could definitely take Trey Lance, whoever falls to number 4. Justin Fields. I think, one thing, sorry to kind of go off on a tangent. I think eventually Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go to the Patriots. I think, I don't know if you guys have ever, there's an excellent book I recommend everyone to read by Michael Lombardi. It's called Gridiron Genius. And in Gridiron Genius, Bill Belichick's biggest regret in his history is letting go of Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't want him to go. He basically was hamstrung. He was handcuffed. And basically it came to the point where it was like, you get rid of Tom Brady, you pay Jimmy Garoppolo like $20-30 million to sit on your bench. It just wasn't worth it, right? So he maximized his assets. So that's how they come back there. What was your second part? Like, what would Carolina do with their quarterback?
If they don't get Mac Jones at 8 and they say, "Hey, we'll trade back," is there another quarterback worth actually getting for them that could be better than Bridgewater?
No, I don't think so. I think they probably have to stick with Bridgewater for a year. They can maybe investigate somewhere in a later round, but I don't think so. I think Bridgewater's a good quarterback. Maybe someone pops loose with free agency or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're all in on like Deshaun Watson just coming there. What was it, like 3 first, Christian McCaffrey? Like they were all in.
Can I say one thing, Josh, real quick about that?
Go ahead, yeah.
So I actually read a good article. So David Tepper, I think is a Carolina guy. He's the owner of the Panthers. He wants Deshaun Watson by any means because if you guys remember, Deshaun Watson went to Clemson, South Carolina. So he wants Deshaun Watson to be like the king of Carolina, to kind of bring it all back. Like it's just a marketable thing. He wants that for the next 10 years. So he's willing to trade anything for it. I just don't know if the whole all the scandals, if that's going to ruin anything. But I don't know. Like, is Deshaun Watson going to be? You can buy him cheap now because of all this, because he's like undesirable, or is he going to be blacklisted and kind of kicked out of the league for a year? I have no idea where that's going to go.
Right.
That's probably the biggest question mark. Like,
it's so wild right now, man. Who knows what's happening with that with that situation?
All right, guys. So go around the room, tell everyone who's watching where they can follow you and your information. It was a pleasure talking to all y'all. Like I said, Josh Taylor. My @name is on the screen. You can listen to the Burgundy Network podcast with me and Brian Murphy. New episode dropping tomorrow, talking about the wide receiver room. We're going to call it Reading the Room. And some interesting nuggets. I've dropped some hot things on the TL lately about wide receivers and tight ends and stuff like that. So I can't wait to chop it down. But Manny, you're killing it, man. Let everybody know where to follow you.
So name is Manny Chakuba. Follow me on Twitter. Got some free agency stuff. Got some NBA stuff, fantasy stuff. Got 2 podcasts, Back Row Redskins Show and Talking Sports with Manny. Got some good stuff coming, man.
Awesome. Ryan?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at WhatGibbsFF. And again, you'll see me on a lot of podcasts, I think, this go around with hashtag Announce the Pick. So hopefully if you're involved and you're listening to this and you don't have a podcast, but you want to figure out how to get involved, you can submit to have someone read one of your picks for one of your fantasy football drafts or get connected with the podcast, donate some money to some great charities. And again, we're trying to work with the hog farmers in the spirit of Washington and help out there with the pediatric cancer work that they're doing, which is some really great stuff. You should check them out if you haven't.
Love it, man. Definitely want to get plugged in with that. Jesse, where can they follow you?
Yeah, you can reach me at Jesse's 24, it's JESSYS 24, or the Bleeding Berg Pod on Twitter. And you can check out the podcast, the Bleeding Burgundy Podcast. We are on all platforms, including YouTube as well, with my co-host Keith Gray, KG Skins 26. Most people know who he is because he's crazy and he's fun. We have some fun podcast sets before. George has been on before.
A lot of fun. It's a blast, guys.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Love listening in. Evan, shout out your Twitter.
Yeah, y'all can find me on Twitter at The Voice of Evan. Yeah, I be talking sports, I be talking football, but I really just be vibing too. Thank you for having me on here, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's been fun.
And George, love all the content with Full Press Coverage Washington. Huge fan. Always plugged in with y'all. Love our group chats. That thing's
I love it, man. It's awesome.
I wish I could post some of the stuff sometimes, but it's always popping. Let everybody know where they can follow you.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm George Carmi. You can find me at gcarmi21. Just look at my last name, CARMI21. You can also follow my articles at fullpresscoverage.com. And we have a big group of at FPC_WSH for Washington. Bunch of good guys, loosely affiliated with Josh and Nathan Coleman and Ian Cummings and Alan Lepore. We love it, dude. We just talk football all day long. Our chat's popping, as Josh was talking about. It's a lot of fun. So
I love talking football.
100 messages coming down the streams. It's right there. It's awesome. So
I know. Yeah, it's a great group of guys. Like I said, guys, it was a pleasure chopping up with y'all. First time meeting a lot of y'all. Planning on doing this more often. Just random people from Twitter, just fans and football heads. But a pleasure having y'all on. And like I said, I'll drop a podcast. Go ahead.
Real quick, just because I want to build out this community as much as possible. If people aren't on Clubhouse yet, it's a great opportunity, right? It's basically a live podcast app where you can interact if you're the audience. And I think it's got a lot of great potential. We set up a club there specifically for Washington football team fans. So if you sign up for Clubhouse, just search Washington football team. You'll be able to join the club. You'll get a lot of live rooms that we set up. And anyone that wants to do, Josh, any of you guys can, work with me. We can set up rooms. You guys could be admins for it. I want to build out that community a little bit because it's a really great way for us to interact and get to talk to people. So if you have the opportunity to check it out, if you need an invite, hit me on Twitter and I'll send you an invite to the app because it is invite only. And unfortunately it is iPhone only, but just wanted to give that quick shout.
Yeah, if you don't have an iPhone, get an iPhone. If there's anything you take away from this entire video, this hour long, get an iPhone. It is not worth the Androids. But I agree with you. That's my first time with Jason Wright using Clubhouse, and I talked to him afterwards. He said he loved it. He plans on using it a ton more. And then I told him your idea, starting this community on Clubhouse, and he was all for it. Hopefully we'll get him on sometime. But yeah, definitely want to build that up. So stay tuned, stay plugged in, everybody here. And everyone that's creating content on Twitter, we got some awesome content creators for Washington. Like I said, guys, I will see y'all with the podcast tomorrow. Peace.
Peace, guys. See y'all later.
Have a good one, everyone.
Make it move. But I'ma hop in this foreign and like a fool. I've been ungrateful, I'm thankful.